Hello there, and welcome to a very beautiful episode of Culture Cove right here on Hued Network. Of course, as always, my name is Blessing Dagin. Well, I have Omo Cafe here with me. Hi, Cafe. Are you sure you're okay?
I am. I try to be.
Alright. Today, to the moment you've been waiting for, it's a very, very special show because we have a very special guest. Now, we're talking about a guest who has been at his craft for up to 25 years. Now, drum rolls. Alright, so I'm talking about Taiwo Isimi. Of course, he is a hyperrealist artist, but I don't want to go into that. I would let him do the introduction by himself. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for having me.
All right. So, we're here to know about all you do and your journey so far. So, let's start from the very beginning. How did this start? I mean, it's been over 25 years. Where did this start from? What inspired you, and where are we now?
Well, I think like most other artists, while I was young, still not a baby, but at least I'd grown up. It's like 6, 7 years, watching all the Cartoon Networks, Transformers, viewing it, playing video games, Mario and stuff like that. So I was like, hey, these guys are creating something. It's like, hey, let me start drawing. And I would draw those kind of images. I would try and create my own comics and stuff like that. So from there, I just started developing on it. It wasn't something that I took too seriously at the time, but as I grew older, I started taking it seriously. But my parents weren't in support of it because you have to remember that back in the days, being an engineer, being a lawyer, being a doctor, being those kind of careers were reputable, and being an artist was not. They'll say, this guy does be wearing dreadlocks and shabby clothes and stuff like that. But that's what I like doing. I also like fixing things, repairing pads and things like that. So you got to change the battery or the jack up the car to change the tires. I used to do that too. So maybe there was some kind of double talent there. But as you grow older, you start with math, further math, then calculus, then it gets tougher as you climb high. But for me, art was just something that was easy for me to just do it like that. So I had to study that all the way till I got into the university. When I got into the university, science wasn't as easy as ABC. It was tough, kind of. I did my best, of course, but along the way, I was like, I think I should just, pursue my dream, of being an artist.
Mhm.
So I decided to decided to transfer to creative art. It was a very big decision because I had to do it without telling my parents, which was
Hello.
it was not something that they were gonna find funny because after paying so many years of school fees and stuff like that. So I was like but they took it with a few seconds of silence. I said, "Hey, mom, dad, I've changed to creative art," and they just looked. Okay, got up I went. I was like, I will not finish it. But from then on, I started to hustle, and I basically was just looking for commission works and stuff like that to draw portraits. I was funny enough, I was making something money off it, because I got to that helped introduce me to the social community of other artists, musicians as well, like Faze and other musicians. And I was doing well, supporting myself.
Hmm.
So I was like, time for me to be a proper studio artist freelance, and I did the creative art Unilag for the next 3 years after I transferred. So spent there about 10 years in the university system. kind of like watched, like how, came up, went down, came up, some people leave, and it was a great experience for me, to tell you the truth. But I tell you, I spent all those 6 years in engineering, and I only felt like I spent 3 years in the university system, because it was when I changed to creative art that I started to feel alive. It's a very long story. I would have told you how I happened to transfer, because it wasn't, I woke up one morning and just transferred like that. It wasn't going to be easy, because I had to have some certain results, which, at the time, if I didn't have it, I wouldn't have been able to make that change. But God orchestrated it, because prior to that particular year where I made that change, I'd taken 1 or 2 subjects back in my WAEC and GCE, exams that helped me to make that change. Otherwise, if I hadn't taken it then, I wouldn't have been able to make the change at the time I made that change. So I think it was all planned. So I feel like I am where God has called me now.
Interesting.
So how you had mentioned that you had to leave school, not school per se, but your department, you had to switch your department. So by any chance, does mechanical engineering affect, the way you draw? Like, does it impact it in what way? Maybe you had learned some mathematical, conjunctions somewhere in mechanical engineering, and now you're using it in your art.
Yes. Hyperrealism is quite technical. We have a different kind of approach, the more technological approach to it, right? It's not like the traditional, it's still like traditional artists, but, we employ means like using projectors, using weak metal, things that are quite mathematical, right? To create the visual output that we get, right? For me, the only thing that I would say is, learning to be more precise. That I got that attitude straight from engineering, because every little thing it has to be done properly. And so with that kind of precision that I had, I put it into my art, right? For some other people that just saw it, their own take was, hey, this guy is using a mechanical pencil. They hadn't seen it in visual art at the time. And they're like, maybe it's because of the pencil he's using. I'm like, not exactly, right? but I think because of that dual nature I had of being a creative when it comes to visual art, and still also trying to fix things and stuff like that, the two of them just seem to go together. But apart from that, not really.
Okay, so I was going to ask why you chose hyperrealism, but then Omokafe had already asked how you combine it with what you do. But if you could just still give us a little idea of why did you choose that? There are different forms of art. Why hyperrealism?
It's the challenge. You see, the other art forms are great, right? But there's something I noticed about people. They're not that patient, right? And I looked and said, hey, if you are not patient, you are not patient, you are not patient, you are not patient. And if you are not patient, why not I just do that? Right? Why not I just create something off of patience, right? Because now I know that because of that, not everybody will be able to do what I'm doing, right? I prefer to stand out, I could do the other art movements, abstraction, and, impressionism. Right? I did that. While I was in creative art, we're all introduced to that. Anybody having touches and stuff and experiment and do different, But I realized that some people, when it's time to draw portraits, something like that, or something just even realistic, they'll be like, don't tire. And I'm like, yeah.
That's when your strength comes on.
That's when I'm showing myself. I'm like, I could just sit down and stay on the work for days and months if I wanted to.
Wow.
I had the work that I was working on, and it took up to a year.
Wow.
Right? And somebody was like, when are you going to finish this work? I was like, Don't worry.
Be patient.
My own, no matter. I will still finish it. You understand? Because I'm that patient.
All right.
Okay, let's look at, you had mentioned that when you get to hyperrealism, it's sort of like a challenge for you. So when you have a work to do you look at it, or do you draw it from like a technical challenge perspective, or do you get to look at the emotional connection it will have with the person or the object that you're trying to draw? And also, a lot of people get to refer to your work as something that imbues life with color. So when you're imbibing life into it with color, how do you get to do that, and what's the approach?
Well, to be honest, sometimes I don't have to think too much, right? I mean, if you just give me pictures, just a picture, I just replicate it, right? But sometimes, whenever it is like about my own personal work, although I do introduce some little, extra differences in the references that have been given sometimes, those commission works, right? But it will be so much so that it will like change the whole picture, right? Some of my earlier works, you would see where I would just shade the background. There's a way I would scribble some shades, in the background, made it look different. Okay. Some of my other works, though it's black and white, I introduce subtle colors, well saturated colors, not so it looks like everything just blended in, right? Yeah. So all that I can do. But when it comes to my personal works, that's where hyperrealism really shows its features, because I have to, compose. All right. I have to say, hey, I want to do this work. This is what I'm going to do. Take this subject, take that object, take this, take that. Even if I'm taking references from maybe like the internet and stuff like that, or any other person's reference, I'll make some changes, right? I can take this, put it together with this. Right? That's how I just I do everything when it comes to hyperrealism. So it just kind of like brings in my own style. Okay, because a lot of people will see the hyperrealistic work here and there, and they'll be like, it's kind of like all the same. But those little changes is what I do to make it mine.
All right, quite interesting. I think it takes a lot of patience to be able to do all of this. But now let's move a bit to talking about hyperrealism, culture, and let's talk about Nigeria. How do we use this form of art, being that it's a very special kind of art, to preserve and probably showcase our cultural identity? Are you into it? How do you, send cultural messages, for example, through your artworks?
It's a good question. I mean, we already have, we have realism, we have photorealism, then we get to hyperrealism, right? All of this came, the advent of hyperrealism came up as a result of the integration of photography into the system of art. Photographs came and we were like, oh, hey, these guys have come to challenge us, so we have to step it up a little bit. So we use photographs, right? And everyone knows already that photography is also another way of documenting progress, of documenting culture and heritage. So the same thing hyperrealism does. It's just that we have more control over it, because now the 21st century artist, hyperrealist at least, adding charms and emotions to their work. So that's what I do. Just even though it's something of the past, right? Like our heritage, we are using modern techniques. That's what links it, right? So, I mean, this is one work that this Makoko, it's a hyperrealistic work where I use modern technologies to create, and I made some changes here, made it my own, the positions and all that. But another way is, of course, is a little bit of like a surrealistic approach to it as well. Okay. Where you're mixing two different scenes, right? Tweaking it a little bit, of course. I have this work called Engrossed. Okay. Engrossed, for me to come up with Engrossed, I used the agogo. Don't know if you've heard of agogo before.
Mm-hmm.
It's a musical instrument.
Yeah.
Old times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and I had to make a sculpture of it first. Right? I fused the agogo with a headset, a real headset where headphones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I removed the muffs of that headphone, and I took the agogo, fused it, got a welder, fused it there, fused the cable as well, and I got a model to wear it, right? And I had that of water coming from left and right, just coming to hit the agogo from the sides like that, the water spraying up like that, having all that. Like I said, we always add emotion and charms to ours to make it more, I would say tantalizing. So that's why we see a lot of these hyper-realistic works. You see some people playing with water, but nobody plays like with water like I do. I have my own way of playing with it. So you see other of my works like Caesar's Euphoria, the Baptism of Caesar, where I use the dog instead, but the dog is actually me. See, so it's not. You see, the context is kind of different. That's why I said our narratives are different, and that's what makes hyperrealism different for us, at least for me.
So, as the forerunner of hyperrealism in Nigeria that you are, and of course, how you get to infuse African culture into your drawings, your representations. What's that one message that people have always, meant or always said, talked about whenever they viewed your work outside of Nigeria, outside of Africa?
Yeah, it's how I'm still able to keep in touch with my heritage, while using, because hyperrealism is more of like a foreign kind of movement, right? Yeah. So it's not like Nigerians came up with it; we're just following the movement. Yeah. So it's how we use that hyperrealism that they coined to keep and document our own heritage. Still keep it makes it all so different for them, because they are expressing their own culture. We get that, but we are expressing our own culture using their own means, So when people see it, they're like, wow, lovely. I had an Italian person who came for the exhibition, a group exhibition, which is the first hyperrealism exhibition in Nigeria. It laid the foundation for the becoming hyperrealist. It was called Insanity.
Okay.
It's just built on the idea that we continuously do the same thing over and over just to achieve one result. That's just insane. So I did that work, and he came and he looked at it and was like, wow, do you know that they're doing this in Italy? If you can come to Italy, just come to Italy. And I was like, wow, okay, that's nice. So he could appreciate that I was doing something, as technically outstanding as the Italians were doing it, right? But I didn't have to draw their own scenes or paint their own scenes. I didn't have to paint anything about them. Just technically approaching hyperrealism in such a way that I'm kind of like putting in the heritage there for everybody to see that I've documented my part of my life and there's the individuality of it as well, because I also do not just our own cultural heritage, but the individual experiences.
Yeah.
Like there was a particular work called What My Eyes Have Seen that I did. At the time, I faced a long financial drought of about 6 months. Money coming in. I was like, oh my God, I'm broke. I'd exhausted all my own savings and stuff like that, and I was like, I remember I was really down, and I was literally crying at the point. I was like, oh my God. So I was in the corridor in front yard, and I had this camera that I had in my bought. So I took the camera and I took a picture of myself, my eyes, where I was shedding that tear. And don't tell anybody to if I see shade, but you get the idea. It's just part of it. That's how I felt at the moment, right? So I took that picture and I drew that picture, a realistic work of that picture. Of course, collector has taken it today. Probably doesn't even know the essence that work holds. But that's what hyperrealism is really about.
All right, it's been a very amazing conversation, but then let's go on a quick break.
Right.
All right, now we take a very short break. When we come back, Culture Cove continues and our conversation moves forward. Please stay with us.
For 2 seasons, Timeline has taken you on a journey of exploring real-life issues and solutions. Well, we are on to season 3 of Timeline, a space where we talk about real issues shaping our world. Here, we sit down with voices that matter, with people who are driving change and making impact. We are talking about more than just problems. We're talking about the attainment of our collective commitment, the global goals, the SDGs, and of course, our community-specific targets. Our conversations aren't just about highlighting problems. They're about finding solutions that truly works, solutions that touches lives and impact the globe. An appraisal of how close we are in meeting our global and community targets. We create rooms for honest, thought-provoking conversations, a ride that you wouldn't want to miss. Well, this is Timeline, where conversations lead to solutions that change lives.
All right, many thanks for still staying tuned. We're still here on Culture Cove, and we are with the forerunner of hyperrealism when it comes to the Nigerian landscape. All right, so let's talk about your thoughts on the Nigerian arts ecosystem. That's one, and how we could preserve that when it comes to young people. What's working, what's not working, and let's talk about Isimism as well, and how you intend to pass that to the next generation.
What's working and what's not working? Well, to be honest, it's actually working,
Okay.
but I wouldn't say it's entirely working, right? We are already being mentioned globally. The global stage, Nigerians are, trust me, they're really hitting it, right? Because you see some auctions and some galleries you go to, they're there, right? Even the hyperrealism aspect of it, of our art now, it's going globally. We have artists like Abidje, Oscar, exhibiting in big galleries, so we are being accepted. Hyperrealism is being accepted.
We forgot to mention you.
Yeah, I'm already here. But I mean, yeah, I'm looking forward to a really grand exhibition someday. When that time comes, and probably somebody else in another show will mention me. So for now, let me stay humble. But with art in Nigeria has made headway a lot, right? I think what we just need is support. Many artists that I know don't really have that kind of financial support. Right? So many of us complain about not having enough finances to make their works, get into exhibitions. I remember when we did our Insanity exhibition, we're actually sponsored, by Frotco. Shout out to Frotco. And from then on, everything just seemed to start working well for each of us. I know I sold out. Other artists did well too. So that's a good thing to hear about, right? But I think we still need help with that, and also the educational aspect of it as well. We still need some good amount of mentoring, and opportunities to other avenues to exhibit our works, like alternative spaces. Artists don't generally have that avenue, although it's a good thing that there's social media. I think that has really helped. That has really made things a lot better because where we were dependent upon galleries for us to go to, we had to go to galleries and exhibit our works. Now you can see my work from the other side of the globe. I do get works from overseas, stuff like that. So yeah, so that's a good thing. I think we still need to work on just those little aspects.
So you had mentioned mentorship while we were talking about the things we needed to work on. And I know that most times you get to do workshops for younger artists and curators and the rest of that. So what advice do you usually give to those young artists who get to attend your workshop? I know of Flourish John, and from Flourish John to all of the ones that have come and gone, what advice do you have for them? And after the workshops, do you get to follow up on them? What are they doing? What is going on with you and everything?
Yeah, I mean, my DM is always open to everybody, so I still get messages, I still attend symposiums and stuff like that online as well. I'm being invited for shows online to talk and support of other artists the best way that I can, answer questions, that. So yeah, of course, all they have to do, they've already learned from me, but any other person could teach them too. And of course, it's even less stressful now, if I would have to use the word stressful, for me to do that, because people nowadays can just type it in Google and they watch YouTube videos. So now we are kind of like trying to put our videos out on YouTube as well, so they don't miss that. If they don't learn from me, they can learn from someone else. So that's it's part of their creative journey as well. Alright. So after that, well, of course, what else would they do? They'll after learning the work, they know how to do it. They go ahead and transfer the knowledge as well. Pass it on. So that's what I would advise that they do to bring in more artists and more opportunities. Art is universe. So even if you're not doing hyperrealism, it doesn't stop you from being an artist. So just find your own style. That's what I would advise to any artist. Actually, it doesn't have to be hyperrealism. Any art form you choose, or style, or movement you're following, you can always find your style, and you can do that by experimenting. Obviously, you will. Yeah. For me, back in my days, I had to figure things out on my own because I didn't have the opportunity most of the artists have today to just type in what they find out or solve any problem by just asking Google, asking Siri, asking Gemini, stuff like that. So I have to wake up in the morning and keep trying till I figure it out. Right. So if they always say there's nothing new under the sun, but to be honest, there are things that are new under the sun. And even if you say there's nothing new under the sun, all I can say is, hey, take one. 1 + 1, 2. You found something new.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, so just go out, expose yourself, right? Go to other galleries, learn from others, and put one or two together, make 3 again, and continue like that. And before you know it, you find something you're really good at, right? Curious, seek an adventure. Art is adventurous, and make it an attitude. That's what art is. Art is an attitude.
Art is an attitude. Interesting. Okay, so one very important thing I think we should talk about is how to balance passion and financial stability. Because interestingly, you were so passionate about this that you had to switch after so many years. But a lot of people may have passion, but then they'll be thinking, how does this sustain me? So how do we balance that up?
It's just like how somebody asked me, how do you balance, being an artist or being, studio artist and also your job at the same time? And I was like, because I don't balance it. I put in the extra work, So, it's not enough for you to be a creative. you have to be a financial manager as well. You know, it's not enough for you to just be drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing. If you are lucky, like me, and has a wife that handles that aspect, that's good. I know some other artists who have managers. You see, but at the same time, you're gonna have to pay your manager. Well, but that's not the problem. If you're making a whole lot of money,
Yeah.
that's not bad, right? Because some people would have people who come take their videos, take the shots, do the PR, you know. So I mean, I know of an artist, let me not mention name, but you know, the guy blew so fast, like it was, and this guy had, you know, it wasn't maybe today in days exhibit his work, and I seen his work. His work, I exhibited with him. I was like, why is it now that everyone is saying, wow, this guy? I was like, so I eventually we did an exhibition where he came, he attended, and I met him, and I met his PR, and he was just telling me, yeah, you know what, I can do this for you too. You see, so if you have a good manager, or if you are not going to do it by yourself, that's good, but you have to, because it's not enough for you to just focus. Once you're just creating and creating, you don't look at the long-term effect, you don't save, you don't do all those things that are necessary for you to continue. You don't invest back into your work, nobody's going to tell you how to use your money the right way. You're going to lose it all. So you just have to find a way to be both being a creative and being a financial manager at the same time. And good news, you can actually still hit it, type it in Google and still find the solution. It's crazy, yeah, because the advent of social media or technology or this Google stuff is just is really helpful.
All right, so it's been an amazing conversation. Let's quickly round it up here. So, looking ahead, what do you think the future holds for hyperrealism, preserving our culture, and basically striking the balance between the technology part of hyperrealism, preserving our culture, and then passing it down to the young ones? What do you think the future holds for us when it comes to that?
Yeah, I mean, hyperrealism is here to stay. I don't think it's going anywhere. People, most of us that, you know, do this hyperrealism art, you know, as we are patient, it's the way everybody's going to have to be patient with us. The world's going to have to be patient. They're going to have to wait and continue seeing it. Because since it's a movement that encapsulates your heritage, encapsulates your emotions and stories as well, whether facts or fictional, right? It's still there because the narrative is what continues to drive the art piece. Because tomorrow they're going to look at it and they're going to say, what is about this drawing or what's about this painting that really evokes or provokes one's emotion? And that's the essence in the painting that we keep, that would last, have longevity over the years to come. So we should just keep exploring that, taking advantage of that, keep on, you know, having some authenticity in our works as Nigerians. Generally everybody, right? But as Nigerians, our culture is very unique. It's something that, you know, when people see outside, especially foreigners, when they see our works and they see the kind of paintings, you know, that we do, or drawings that we do of our culture, it's always a tribute for them. I've always noticed that. They're always like, I haven't seen this before. So you guys wear Kispo, so you guys, stuff like that. I know. So it's a way to document heritage, and over the years, that's what's the people of tomorrow, maybe 100 years from now, it's the same way we are seeing works of Da Vinci, Michelangelo, and great works of 18 something, long time, and they are still one of the most expensive items on the planet. Paintings going for so many millions, 100 and something million. It's crazy. So they did it then, and it's still here today.
Yeah.
So what are you saying? You're doing it now, you're still going to be here tomorrow.
All right. Thank you so very much, sir.
you.
All right. So now we have something interesting. I would like you to read out for us.
No be everything we touch your hand, you go put for mouth. Okay, so I think it's not everything that glitters that is gold. Okay, that, and it's not all the time. If they say the grass is greener on the other side, it is. Sometimes it's not. Okay, so I think that's about it. Because
Okay. Makes a lot of sense. What do you think about that?
So no be everything we touch your hand and you go put your mouth. I want to believe that it's exactly also what Mr. Taiwo right here Isimi had said. Indeed, it's not everything that your eyes get to see that you want to always carry. Like, okay, now that I've seen it with my eyes, I must enter that place. Or like he said, it's not everywhere they tell you that today Dubai is so good, it's perfect. It might be good for this person, but Dubai might not necessarily be where your own good is at. So you do not get to follow the crowd simply because everyone is going there. So not be everything we touch your own hand and you put for your own mouth.
That's Kafi's wisdom. Okay, so not everything we touch your hand, you go put for mouth. I mean, okay, let's think about it literally. You can use your hand to hold poison. You can use your hand to hold sweets. You can use your hand to hold, things that are not edible. So it's not like mouth in the real sense of it.
Yeah.
But it just means that sometimes you need to be selective of the things you consume.
So you could sometimes probably means you have a lot of options.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
You're being given one whole thing. You could just
Yes.
look and say, right, let me just let's look at this in a different line of perspective. And this one's not for me. right?
Exactly.
You can learn some people, but whatever it is they give to you, just pick the one that works.
Always weigh your options.
That's the one you go chop.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Like how you decided to, pick hyperrealism.
exactly.
Exactly.
I had other options, but I the one way sweet me pass.
You decided to pick. All right. Thank you so very much, sir. It's been an amazing conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. It's been amazing here with Omo Cafe, of course, and our very interesting guest, Mr. Taiwo Isimi, to join us for another beautiful episode of Culture Cove next time. My name, as always, is Blessing Dage.